A late swarm can fool you because it arrives with all the drama of a gift. Bees pour into a box, the queen disappears between the frames, and the apiary suddenly feels richer. Then evening comes. The air turns cool, the goldenrod is nearly finished, and you notice how much empty foundation is sitting around those bees. That's when the real question starts. Did you save a colony, or did you give a dying swarm a neat wooden place to fail? A spring swarm has time. It can draw comb, raise several rounds of brood, replace old flying bees, and store food while flowers are still opening everywhere. A swarm caught near the end of summer is working against the calendar. Wax building costs energy. Brood needs heat, pollen, nurse bees, and about 3 weeks just to develop from egg to emerging worker. After that, the young bees still need time inside the hive before they become useful foragers. In late summer, those weeks disappear quickly, especially once cool nights begin to slow brood rearing and wax production. The first thing I judge is size, though size alone can lie. A tight cluster that fills a large cardboard box may look impressive, but once it settles over the comb, it can shrink to a few frame spaces. I want to see how many frames are genuinely covered with bees after they've calmed down. A swarm crowding 5 or 6 frames in early August has a very different chance from one barely covering 2 frames in late September. The date, the local weather, and the forage still available all matter. In Poland, a warm spell and a strong late flow from goldenrod, heather, or ivy can buy some time. Even then, I judge the colony by what it has already built, not by what I hope the weather might provide. Don't pour a late swarm onto 10 sheets of foundation and congratulate yourself. Give it drawn comb if you have any clean, safe comb available. That one decision may save days of work and a large amount of sugar. The queen can begin laying at once, workers can store syrup immediately, and the colony doesn't have to build its entire winter home from wax. Experience teaches you that bees sometimes draw foundation beautifully in warm weather while taking heavy syrup. It also teaches you how quickly they stop when nights become cold. Keep the space small enough for the bees to control. A little colony spread through a large empty hive has too much comb to guard and too much volume around the cluster. Use a nucleus box or reduce the brood chamber with a proper divider. Keep the brood area together, place food close to it, reduce the entrance, and avoid leaving cracks. Late summer is robbing season. A weak swarm with exposed syrup can become an invitation to every strong colony in the yard. Feed inside the hive, without spilling syrup or leaving wet equipment outside. Heavy syrup is commonly used when the colony needs to store winter food, though timing depends on weather and local practice. Feeders must be accessible to a small cluster during cool nights. A feeder above empty space may be useless if the bees can't reach it without leaving the warmth of the cluster. I've opened small colonies after a cold night and found syrup untouched only a hand's width away. The cluster was pressed tightly over the brood and simply hadn't crossed the empty gap to reach the feeder. Before making plans, find out whether the swarm has a functioning queen. Seeing a queen is encouraging, but eggs are better evidence. A worn queen may have left an established colony in a true swarm. A small virgin queen may need mating flights, and late in the season the supply of mature drones and suitable flying weather can be poor. A cluster can also be queenless. Give the bees a little time to settle, then check carefully for eggs and the beginning of an organized brood nest. Don't keep opening the box every day. You'll chill the nest, disturb the queen, and learn very little. There's another uncomfortable possibility. What looks like a late swarm may be a colony that abandoned its old home. Bees can abscond because of severe mite pressure, disease, repeated disturbance, starvation, or other stress. You may have caught the bees, along with the problem that drove them out. Treat every late swarm as a colony with an unknown history. Inspect the bees and brood when brood appears. Check the Varroa level with a reliable method and use a legal treatment suitable for the colony's condition, the temperature, and whether brood is present. A broodless swarm offers a useful treatment window, but the label still matters. I wouldn't donate precious brood to a swarm before asking why it is weak. Adding a frame of emerging brood can strengthen a healthy, queen-right colony, especially when the donor colony is strong enough to spare it. Adding brood to a diseased or heavily infested swarm can create a larger problem. You can also weaken the donor at the exact time it should be raising its own winter bees. Late-season generosity has to be measured. The apiary gains nothing if one doubtful colony pulls a good colony below winter strength. Winter bees are part of the decision. These workers are physiologically different from short-lived summer foragers. They develop larger nutrient reserves and can survive for months, carrying the colony through winter and helping start brood rearing in spring. To raise them well, a colony needs pollen, healthy nurse bees, and low virus pressure, which usually means Varroa must be under control. A queen laying a beautiful patch of brood doesn't guarantee success if mites are reproducing in those cells. Visible wing damage or crawling bees are late signs, so I don't wait for them before checking the mite level. But when is a late swarm worth keeping separate? I'd keep it if it has a laying queen, enough bees to cover a compact brood area, drawn comb, controllable mite levels, adequate food, and enough warm weather left to raise brood and organize stores. I'd also consider the genetics. A calm, healthy local swarm may be worth extra work. Still, sentiment doesn't change colony biology. If the cluster remains small, the queen fails to lay, brood is poor, or cold weather is close, combining is often the kinder and more practical choice. Combining doesn't mean dumping two colonies together and hoping they sort it out. First, decide which queen you intend to keep and remove the other queen before the colonies meet. Check both colonies for signs of disease and serious mite trouble. Never unite a suspect colony with a healthy one simply to hide weakness. If both are healthy, the newspaper method gives their odors time to blend. Put the stronger queen-right colony below, place a sheet of newspaper between the boxes, add the smaller group above, and make a few small slits if that is your normal method. The bees chew through gradually and usually join with far less fighting than a direct mix. The work late in the day, keep exposed, comb covered, and reduce the entrance afterward. Robbers notice disorder quickly. A little syrup on the rim, a frame left leaning against a hive, and that calm evening can turn noisy. You hear the pitch change first, sharper than normal flight, with bees searching corners instead of landing cleanly. If you spend enough evenings near hives, you'll learn that sound. Once full robbing begins, the small colony may lose in hours what you spent weeks trying to give it. After uniting, make the resulting hive compact. Arrange the brood nest so the cluster can move toward food as temperatures fall. Remove excessive empty space, confirm that stores are sufficient for your hive type and climate, and continue monitoring Varroa. Don't assume the combined population is automatically strong. Two weak units can create one larger weak unit if the queen is poor, the bees are old, or the mite load is high. The purpose of combining is to concentrate healthy bees, food, and good organization under one viable queen. There's a temptation to judge the rescue by activity at the entrance. Late swarms often fly hard on warm days. They orient, search, carry pollen, and look wonderfully determined. Entrance traffic tells you they're alive. It doesn't tell you their age structure, food weight, brood health, queen quality, or mite level. Lift the hive from the back. Look at the brood when conditions allow. Watch whether the cluster expands or merely becomes older and smaller. By autumn, good beekeeping becomes less about adding colonies and more about choosing which colonies have a real path through winter. That choice can feel harsh when you've climbed a ladder, caught the swarm, and watched it march into the hive. I understand the attachment. I've also learned that keeping every queen in a separate box isn't the same as saving every colony. A late swarm may survive, especially when it is large, queen-right, given drawn comb, fed properly, protected from robbing, and treated according to its actual mite level. A tiny swarm with no proven queen and only foundation, caught when cold nights are already arriving, has very little margin for error. Give it what it truly needs, or unite it while its bees can still strengthen another hive. In autumn, the best rescue is the one that leaves living bees in spring.